Thank you, everybody, for joining this Friday's FIC Coalition meeting. We have some exciting things to share with you today. We have a wonderful presentation by Sheldon McBee on the powerful win-back strategies, which we will get to right after we do our government update, and a few words from canfitpro on their offerings to FIC members. So we will start with Chris Gray, who is our lobbyist, to tell us how the election went for us.
Yes, thank you, Trisha. Yes, there was an election last week. I'll try to be as brief as I can because I get kind of excited talking about these things because it's like my Super Bowl. But in all honesty, it was like a lot of Canadians. It's what was the point? There wasn't a lot of change. In fact, there's only 44 new members of parliament coming into the House, which seats 338. So that's an unusually low number of new parliamentarians, many of which we are identifying as possible future champions for FIC moving forward. So obviously we saw the Liberals reelected with 158 seats, just short of the 170 that is required for a majority government. Moving forward, well, we saw it, and there's going to be very interesting to see if Aaron O'Toole continues on as the leader of the Conservatives. They're already starting to, the Sharks are circling a little bit there right now, but generally, leaders are afforded at least 2 elections before they decide to move on. It will be interesting to see how long Mr. Trudeau stays on as well. There hasn't been a lot of discussion on that, but him failing to win majority governments when, quite frankly, the Liberals are fairly used to it in the past will raise questions about his leadership moving forward as well, particularly with some high-profile candidates ready to take his job when and if he decides to step down in the next couple of years. We can expect to see an even stronger coalition between the NDP and the Liberals. The Liberals can't use that threat as much as they did before, that we're going to trigger an election. We don't have the confidence of the House, etc., because Canadians have clearly spoken now 2 elections in a row, and they're happy with the way it works with a minority parliament situation. So expect to see the NDP carrying even more weight moving forward, and people like me and Sarah and Trisha having to pay more attention, quite frankly, to what the NDP are putting in their policy positions, and we will be working with them a lot more, and the Liberals moving forward. So on that note, just a quick note about what we will be doing. We are going to be doing some social media over the next week or so, using our Twitter account to reach out to some parliamentarians that we have engaged with before, to congratulate them and keep our issues on the forefront. Over the coming weeks, we can expect a lot of speculation around cabinet. Mr. Trudeau will attempt to keep his cabinet as evenly split between the genders as he can, and he did lose 4 female cabinet ministers in the last election, so he does need to obviously fill those positions. So I expect the House to come back probably in late October, first weekend of November. New cabinet will be sworn in probably the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then mandate letters, which are provided to the ministers from the Prime Minister. Here's what your mandate will be over this term, are delivered to the ministers. So for us right now, it's congratulate MPs, continue to remind them of what we want to work on over the next couple of years. Then we will start outreach to officials over the coming weeks to try to influence what is in mandate letters, and particularly for our industry. And then we will start in November to continue our awareness building with members of parliament and other officials moving forward. So that's it in a bit of a nutshell. I will also just say that more information will come on exactly what the Liberals promise, particularly for small business. And they did say a few things, such as they will improve the Canada Small Business financing program. They'll increase maximum loans from $350,000 to $500,000, and they will introduce a new line of credit for small business. So more information will be coming on that, and we will definitely keep you updated on that as it moves forward. So I'll stop there.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. Always good to have an update to see where we're at and let everybody know what it is that we're working on. I would like to pass it over to Mo now to speak to us about some of the exciting things that canfitpro has to offer to FIC members.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Coming in from London today. I'm commuting, so I'm here on my car. Thought I'd be coming into you with my devices not being my phone, but I seem to have locked myself out of my iPad. So how's that for a fun Friday? So I'm going to ignore all these messages popping in on my phone, but I just wanted to spend a minute to remind all of you as members that we really, really appreciate and want to support you in this incredible time of recovery. So canfitpro is here to remind you that you have the opportunity to receive a free business membership with us. And I have a colleague, Barb Pontus, with me today. She's going to drop some details into the chat box. But not only are we extending to you a free business membership that includes lots of opportunities for you to use our job boards to post for positions, but also to reap other benefits, including a further discount code we're going to be providing you to receive our services for another discount, which would be 25% off most of the services that we offer that would help you in everything that you need, from training and education, certification, etc. I wanted to remind you as well that we have one final virtual event of 2021, and that is going to be on November the 12th. It is our Business and Leadership Conference. It's a one-day event on a Friday, and it is really received great response so far. I want to remind all of you that if you have already registered with an all access pass, that you will be emailed your confirmation next week. So you don't have to go looking for it. You'll receive a confirmation. If you haven't yet registered for it, please do so. We feature 4 tracks, 15 sessions, incredible presenters from not only Canada and the US, but also from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and we have 4 tracks of focus. They are, of course, technology. Our keynote speaker, Ian Moulin, is returning, and it's going to be focusing on a case study from Willow's Fitness, Health and Fitness in Australia. And we're also featuring sales and marketing and coaching, leadership, professional and personal development. So it's something for everyone. For yourself, we do hope that you'll take this time to recharge, to renew your education commitment, but also to come together and just to get that boost that you need to know what you're doing is the right thing, and to gain new ideas, insights, and also opportunities to connect with your peers in the industry. It is our final event of the year. Barb's popped in some of the links for those curriculums, so you can take a look online. And other than that, I have the privilege of introducing our speaker today. So I'm going to jump right into that so we can give Sheldon as much time as possible. And he's been very generous to give us a power-packed session entitled Powerful Win-Back Strategies. And it really is your opportunity to learn the best practices and how to really develop powerful, engaging opportunities to win back lost clients, also how to leverage the new leads. I want to just share with you, for those who haven't had the opportunity of meeting Sheldon, Sheldon McBee is the executive director at Universal Athletic Club in the United States. He's an ACE certified personal trainer, group fitness instructor with close to 2 decades of experience in health and fitness. He's a very well-known and experienced international presenter, lecturer, educator, business consultant, and fitness content developer. So he really sees it from all sides. He's been featured in numerous industry publications, group fitness exercise videos, industry conferences, and really had a standing, I would say, impactful presentation. While it was short at our FIC State of the Industry in August. We have him back today to speak twice as long, even more. So Sheldon's based out of Litz, Pennsylvania, and it is a beautiful little town. It's one of the coolest towns in the United States. And part of the reason is because Sheldon McBee lives there. So everybody put some love together, use the chat box, and let's welcome Sheldon McBee on Powerful Win-Back Strategies.
Cool. Wow. Thank you so much, Mo, for that amazing introduction. I don't know if I feel worthy. Wow. Appreciate that. Well, happy Friday to all my friends in Canada. I will let you know this. I miss everybody in Canada. It's been a long, long time since I've been there. Hopefully I can get back again really soon. Wonderful, wonderful folks. And yeah, today I'm going to share with you all, essentially, it is a story. It is a story about what we went through during this, pretty much it was a horrific and challenging era this past year and a half. We've all been through it. And we learned some really powerful key takeaways. It's essentially a story of our journey. And we learned very powerful things in terms of reacquiring. And we looked at this as an opportunity more than anything else, an opportunity to get better. And this is great for the fitness industry because now we know how to better position ourselves to have a place of high value, how to reacquire clients, members, and of course, how to move ahead with technology, of course, to help expand our offerings. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this works out right here. Okay, you should all see my screen. Great. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to share with everybody first a really cool video. I shared this a couple conferences ago. It's a fun video. And I happen to be a big Marvel movie fan. My daughters are as well. Matter of fact, it's the whole Marvel movie franchise that got us to get through the pandemic because they watched the movie with me pretty much every night through the entire thing. And they came out with a very powerful commercial about going back to the movies. This was back in May. And I thought, what an amazing video that just sort of explains the sentiment and the power of we have to offer as club operators. So I'm going to just click next on my screen here and see if I could share. Actually, let me do something different here. Share, share. Okay. And I'm sure you all can hear this. So I'm going to hit play. Here we go.
I love being with people.
It's all about going back to the movie.
It's the most incredible thing in the world.
What are you doing? Oh, this is nice.
That world may change and evolve. But the one thing that will never change, we're all part of one big family. That man next to you, he's your brother. That woman over there, she's your sister.
Higher, further, faster, baby.
That's right.
We're all part of one universe.
Wakanda forever!
That moves ever upward and onward to greater glory.
On your left. Avengers!
I've lived a lot of lives. But I'm done running from my past. We have unfinished business.
Who's we?
love something, you fight for it. We're the ones who changed everything.
Yes, cool. Now, if you're a big, let me jump to the next slide. If you're a big Marvel movie fan like I am, what I got out of that was I miss the movies. I miss going there with my family. I miss that feeling, going into the dark theater, the big sound. I miss that. I missed that for a long time until our theaters opened up again. When I saw that commercial back in May, I thought to myself, you know what? That is a very similar thing that needs to come to the forefront for the folks who are our clients, our members, should feel when they're considering coming back to the facility to be part of you again. They came to you because they somehow, some way, they saw a better version of themselves as being a member of your facility, and they should miss it. If they don't miss it, then perhaps something may be going on with the client or member journey from beginning when they are thinking about you as a service to when they actually choose to exit. And then we think about, okay, why do we lose our clients? You know, why do we lose our members? Could be because the service is not being provided in a sufficient way. Perhaps the customer needs to, or the client needs to, cut back on their cost. They don't need you anymore. They don't think they need you anymore. The service of what you're offering isn't being fully adopted, or it's not visibly clear to them about why they should continue. It could be even that there's a trendier alternative that has become available. Here at Universal Athletic Club tends to be, okay, it's financial, there's medical, but there's always deeper reasons than that. And the key here is to really understand that our clients, to have great retention, you have to understand the client journey. And so today, the whole point of today is understanding what are the key things to tap into that triggers a response to say, it's time for me to come back to the facility. It's time for me to train again. So why is it so important to focus on lost clients or even lost members? Because, as we know, retention is the key, but acquisition is also extremely important to vie for in the future. There's a very powerful researcher named V. Kumar. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's a world-renowned, professor and researcher in business analytics and specifically in win-back campaigns. And one of the key things that he says is that the client or the member, they've already demonstrated a need for you, your facility, or if you're listening to this and you are part of a studio or a trainer, for you and your service as a trainer. They're familiar with your service. So there doesn't need to be heavy spend on acquisition costs, which is a plus. And depending on your technology, you should already have a database on who these people are. And the absolute best will know them. They know their behavior, their goals, their values. And then the key is to personalize a follow-up campaign so you have a stronger volume of rejoin. Great book. If anyone has not read this book before, it's called Never Lose a Customer Again. There's many different resources on client and member retention, so I cannot point them all out. There's some you can hire third party. There's some you can hire as consulting, but this is a great book. We read this maybe a year ago, and it really helped influence us in making some powerful business decisions and how we treat the client journey at the facility. And in this book, they lay out 8 phases of a client journey. We lay it down to 6. The first one being just awareness. Now, first of all, why is this important? Because it leads to what happens on the other side if and when the member or the client chooses to exit. Okay, so the first one being awareness. And in this awareness phase, the best are able to have a clear value proposition that can build a relationship very early based on basically your marketing and branding message. You've got a problem that they've got a problem that you are able to solve, essentially. Then you display in your branding and your marketing how you resolve that problem. And then you clearly display how the life is going to be better on the other side by being part of your gym, part of your studio, or part of your training services. This is all the awareness phase, always happens before the agreement. And then the agreement phase, that is when there needs to be a very powerful and immediate personal acknowledgement once they sign that dotted line, when they're about to start their service, and a very strong ritual that helps them affirm the decision that they made. So they know that this is truly the best decision I ever made. You're building the stages for very strong retention that way. Then you have your integration phase. And in the integration phase, the key is to mitigate buyer's remorse. So typically the time they sign on the dotted line, by the time they actually do the service, experience the workout, take a class, do a training session, needs to be short enough to where they don't regret the decision that they made. So the communication in between signing the agreement versus the first service is critical to help them know I made a great decision. And it should lower the learning curve and help affirm their decision. And then there's a results phase. And the results phase, that is usually an often forgotten phase. But essentially, when someone has great usage, they're coming in frequently, they have high lifetime value when you're measuring it, they need to be recognized for this, being put on a pedestal. They need to have VIP status for this. And it needs to be very strategic touch points that are personal, because you track and measure that celebrate small wins. And it could be just something as simple as using the facility. It could be simple as someone who refers a friend, and it should be a very big deal. And it's quite often forgotten, and is not always physical results like getting stronger or weight loss, because now they're feeling like you actually care. Then you're now also promoting behavior change versus an external result. And then you got your advocate phase. Now in the advocate phase, that is when you have someone who is going to be your champion. They're going to refer for you. The best of the best are going to use it like loyalty rewards and create VIP status for clients and members. Things like Perkville or using My Zone points or whatever it is to recognize engagement, and then offer unique status with high-end benefits, access to unique workouts or discounts to pro shops or to gear, water towel perks, whatever it may be you have. And eventually you get an advocate, someone who you make easy for them to promote you on your behalf by simple referral buddy systems and easy ways to offer testimonials and get recognition for that. Today is primarily, though, about this phase, and this would be the exit phase, okay? Now, in the exit phase, unfortunately, it does happen. This is when someone says, for whatever reason, it's time for me to discontinue my membership, discontinue my service. And this is a critical opportunity to collect data, consider the journey that came before that in order to empower you to have a great win-back campaign later, because you want this to always include some form of an exit interview if possible, should be hassle-free, and an opportunity to continue and nurture a relationship even though they're not considered a paying client anymore. So I'm going to tell you more about Universal Athletic Club. Like Mo said, we are in the beautiful Lancaster. We're in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I live in Lidditz. And yes, it's smack dab in the middle of Amish country. I ended up here. I love it. It's a beautiful 100,000 square foot facility here. We've got 14,000 members. And, leading into 2020, highly, highly, highly profitable. 88% retention. When you look at the rest of the industry, typically sits around 72% for a full service facility like ours. And of course, that's driven a lot by our community. Family, heavy emphasis on group exercise, small group training over private one-on-one training. We do have 1 year commits to our membership. It does help with retention and drop attrition. The biggest thing more than anything else is we put tremendous amount of manpower behind new member integration and ensuring that the client journey actually happens, which truly is a whole other talk I can give about what we do. It's quite robust. And today is more about what we saw work and what we saw not work during the pandemic. How do we get our members and clients to rejoin, and what we're going to do in the future to ensure we can look at that as a stronger sales bucket for the facility. Now, a lot of what today I have to talk about today deals with our training department, but you can apply some things to general membership. And of course, at the end, if you want to ask me more questions on how it relates to that, I'll be glad to answer absolute best I can. We really try to carefully brand all of our training services so it's easier to understand what am I going to get on the other side. And our personal training programs, we're on a roll, on pace for the one site in an area where the average household income is just slightly above our national average of $1.8 million here in this local area. It's quite high. Leading into 2020, we were projecting $2 million before March swung around and kind of laid the hammer on all of it. So of course, we're crushing our PT goals. Things are fantastic. COVID-19 shutdowns happened in March. Of course, we had to temporarily lay off a lot of our staff. We had to stop all of our sources of revenue, minus some small group training who continued to pay. And then in the end of July, early August, we opened up again after executing some of our win-back strategies that we continue to do today, and we're back and better. So this is sort of a look at that journey that we had. I'm going back to January of 2018. We're on pace for $1.8 million. You see a couple of spikes in our revenues for this training department here. This is the overall of it, because we bill every 2 weeks bi-weekly, and we triple bill a couple of times because of that. It's a neat thing to do because you do get an extra billing in. It's easier to manage every year. But in March, we had the big dropout, you see. And we saw an aggressive rise back up immediately as soon as we opened. Yes, there were clients who were just kind of ready and raring to go. But a lot of that, keep in mind that our facility is about 10 years older than the average gym member across the United States. We have in a retirement area. We have a very strong and robust silver sneakers program here. And this was the population that was the most fearful of being in a fitness facility in the peak of the pandemic. Yet we were really able to essentially cross off their biggest issue, and that was, am I going to be safe? And I do miss the feeling of being a better version of myself. So here's just a quick look at our journey, and then I'm going to talk about 5 key things that we learned about our win-back campaign. So back in the initial phase of the shutdown here, we did see the revenue fall out. We dropped down our revenues. We stopped billing all of our members and clients. We had our staff layoffs, just like everybody else in the industry. We already had a pretty good digital experience in play. We just dialed it up and unveiled our virtual digital experiences, which was live. Now, we didn't live stream back then, but we did on demand that we videotaped, offered fitness on demand. And then we started offering our live streams a little bit later in the midsummer. But at that point, it was clear that when we open our doors, we have to establish our protocols of safety first, because we need to give a clear message to our members who are not in the building that we are going to keep you safe. Yes, there's a better version of them on the other side. Yes, when I'm in the gym, I feel part of my community, and I miss that. But the first issue to resolve was, am I safe? So during the next quarter of the year, we put all of our energy, all of our effort into all the things that we do to keep a safe environment. And I won't get into all the things that we actually did. It's quite robust what we did. Our facility here has, over 20, powerful HVAC units that create negative pressure around the facility. The air flows, the air never recycles. It's always fresh air coming in, kind of besides the point. But the key was we had to really nurture the need. Is it safe? So we began pushing that message out in our marketing, announcing what we improved, which was improved cleaning, sanitary protocols. And at the point that we return to the facility, all the things we'll do to keep them safe, including one-way flow of traffic in the facility, social distancing in classes, increased volume of sanitizing stations, masks, etc. But this was the big one. We sat down and said, let's better stratify our clients, and as best we can, our member base. The member base was more challenging. The training clients were easier. We wanted to know one of 3 big things. Who were those who had the high usage? who had higher lifetime value and who has referred somebody in the past. We use that as our three big data points to help us understand who goes on a high priority list of those to push to first to rejoin the facility, as we saw them as a high likelihood to return in our actual campaign. Moderate likelihood to return either had slightly lower usage, but had respectable or good lifetime value, or they've referred in the past. Then you had moderate likelihood to return. One of those three data points were slightly lower. And then you had your higher risk to lose and highest risk to lose because they didn't use often. Lifetime value was relatively low and they never really referred anybody in the past. So that was the most powerful thing that we did to stratify and understand, because then we can have personalized communications to the right people at the right time instead of a blanket, let's get you all back in the facility and just kind of see what happens. So that was the biggest thing we started to do very early in the process. Now, at that point, we got into the fourth quarter of 2020. We started to recognize that it's time for those who have yet to rejoin to stop listening to me, Sheldon, the director of the facility, club owner, and our staff, because of course they're going to tell us it's safe. Of course they're going to tell us get back to the facility. We already had our members flooding back. We immediately had to take action and get our members who truly appreciated our effort and who were ready to share exactly how much better they feel, not just physically, but mentally, for their emotional state, to be back in the facility exercising and recognize everything the facility is doing. So it was a full-on campaign to get every client and member who felt powerful to share the message, to put that out in a marketing campaign to our potential rejoins. And of course, it went into acquisition marketing as well, but there was a high target for rejoins at that point. So what we did was a very targeted FOMO, fear of missing out, campaign. Every week, there was a new member, there was a new message, and it was all about how much better they feel that they're in the facility. That went out every week. We always included coach tips, not just on how to stay physically active and keep your mental health strong while you're at home, but also in the facility. So it wasn't a huge push on a call to action all the time. It was just, let me give you some unsolicited information so you feel like we care about you. That went out weekly. Then bi-weekly and monthly, somebody on the staff gave an actual phone call to everyone who was not yet in the facility, who was a member, just as a check-in. And then there was a director, me, and a couple other directors who would also do a call 2 times in the quarter as a, sort of a checkup. And that effort helped spur us to a 21% growth in the department alone from doing that. Leading into Q1 2021, what we knew, okay, of course it's New Year. It was really time to kind of to now think about some more distinct calls of actions to include with our FOMO campaign. So we stopped doing an enrollment fee at our facility. We typically do charge a significant enrollment fee. We cut that out. We offered $100 back in member rewards for anyone who would rejoin the facility by a specific date. And we also offered 4 weeks of small group training to help them get them on their feet. It sounds like we're giving a lot away. It sounds like, hey, there's a lot of value to this service. Are you sure you'd have to do that? But that at the time was just a different time. We really wanted to let them know we're willing to just give you our shirt to make sure that you get back to who you're really, meant to be, which is an active person with us. And we did see 10.4% growth from that effort. Some of it was just New Year's. Of course, that happens. Some of it were people who were ready to rejoin. But we knew from when we track our why did you rejoin data that it was because of this particular campaign. So, of course, as long as they check in enough, they earn their $100 back, and they can then use that toward future training or to using some other amenity in the club. That was not only for rejoins, but as an acquisition strategy as well. Short-term memberships, canceled members, and anyone who was frozen. If you were frozen, you wouldn't get the small group training, but we did give you a member award to join by a specific date. So that was quite powerful for us. And then ongoing from that point forward, What we always do now for all of our training clients, we won't really be doing this before. We do a drip campaign to keep everyone engaged, but that drip campaign will always include 4 emails that help them give them training, exercise, lifestyle tips, 1 phone call, and 2 texts. And that circulates every 2 months with anyone, excuse me, who is frozen. And anyone who is canceled will get the same 4 emails, they will get a phone call, and they'll get 2 calls to actions and 2 texts over the course of 3 months, unless they choose to like unsubscribe to this series of communications with us. So these things are helping us kind of peak our ability to push rejoins, not just in Q2 of this year, but now ongoing. So when I went back, I kind of talked to all of our staff in here to like, what are the 5 key things that we did to really drive our numbers back up, keep our retention high, and have our rejoins at that level. On a membership level, 42% of all of our acquisition currently are rejoins. This is membership level. One of the main things was to create a legendary exit experience. So let's talk about that first. A legendary exit experience. Now, I know none of you probably know me personally, but I will say this: I love my yard. If you ever want to know where Sheldon is on a Saturday morning, I'm probably in my yard, edging, weeding, mowing, or working on my garden. And I do hire a third party. I hire a company to come and do to treat my yard. Usually once a month, some every other month. And last year I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to stop doing that. Let me just pull back on my budget a little bit, see how we get through this pandemic. And don't you know, when I called the company and I asked them to, hey, can you stop my service for a couple months until we kind of figure things out? They let me stop that service with absolutely no hassle. They expressed a level of understanding and some level of sympathy for the situation. And not only that, they offered me 2 additional services complimentary on them just to get things going, and a recommendation of what I need to do in my yard through the fall to ensure that my grass would stay green and prep me for the next spring. They did not have to do that. I will never forget this conversation. It was unbelievable. And it was so powerful that, and actually another company called me up in the middle of last summer to let me know, hey, it's fall. We're going to aerate the lawns. We'd like to work on your lawn. I know you work with this other company. I said, absolutely not. I'm going back to that company because they treated me well. They treated my exit with a level of care and a level of respect. And actually, they delivered above and beyond. I am absolutely going back to the company I worked with before. Point of that is, that should be the feeling of anybody who's having that exit from your facility. It should not just be, I'd like to cancel, I'd like to freeze, sign paperwork, see you later, good luck. That really needs to be much more impactful than that. So key is, 1, act early to pivot their decision. Somebody sits down, say they want to cancel or cancel, they give you a call. I mean, ideally, it's a simple saying, like, really? You really want to do that? You act surprised. And, you really dig deep to find out why they're making this decision. What is that going to mean for them 6 months from now? There's no hard sell. You're just trying to ask them the question so they talk it out loud to potentially pivot it to a freeze instead of a cancel, or maybe there's a small chance they reconsider. Doesn't always happen. The main thing is, you're trying to establish good rapport moving forward. Offer the opportunity for feedback all the time. This is the only way you're going to get the proper data to use later to trigger your win-back campaign, and make it very easy to change their membership status. They should never have to jump through a lot of hoops to either cancel or freeze their membership. This is at least from our experience. We just really saw that, okay, in order to do this, I need to fill out this form, then I need to go online and fill out that information, and then I need to go into the facility and talk to this person who will get back to me in a day or 2 if and when it's been processed before the next billing cycle happens. And you just get too many complaints that it's too hard to actually get out. Now, unless they're locked into some kind of a commitment period of some kind that may have a buyout, if it's hard for them to have an exit they're not going to feel very good about you or what you're off your services when they actually do go out on the other side. And when you ask them to rejoin, it's going to be a bitter taste in their mouth. Make it legendary, powerful, and more than amicable at the time that they exit. And then ask their permission to educate and engage. Meaning, you have been a member for us, and we consider you a member forever. We have great stuff we can share with you as you move on to whatever next phase you're going to, that give you some coaching, some tips, some lifestyle stuff, and is that okay if we offer this for you? Hopefully they all say yes. And when you do need to have that ready to go to deliver in a drip campaign. Now at Universal Athletic Club, and I'll speak specifically, at least in our training department, there is always an exit interview. It doesn't always happen, and you don't have to do it at the facility, but we do the exit interview. At that point, we do sit down and we just talk to them about the decision that they're making and what is next for them. It's very easy. There's a digital cancel form they fill out, and we do ask for feedback, and we try to get very, very, very granular with a couple simple questions to help us understand why they're making that decision. And that decision is stored digitally so that we can tabulate the data and then stratify that particular client. Then, of course, we offer them to continue giving them programming from that point forward. The cadence always is 2 emails, phone call, email, text, phone call. And it just keeps cycling on and on and on until they choose to, unsubscribe or not get any more points of contact. So that right there helps set the stage for someone to feel like they really, really care about me, even though I'm not, continuing to pay for this service. And yes, it does include some calls to action to rejoin, but we don't do that right away. We wait for a good solid 3 months before those specific call to actions start to happen. So let's go to the second one, and that is targeting lost clients, right? Data is win back gold. Now, research does support that the average firm, and of course we're fitness facilities and studios, et cetera, but the average firm has 20 to 40% probability of successfully selling to a lost customer, and only 5 to 20% probability of making a successful sale to a prospect. Point being, when someone trusts your brand, they've had a great experience, it is easier to reacquire than to hunt down a new acquisition. So that's why efforts for retention and all those 6 steps of the journey I showed you earlier are so critical when it comes to not just retention, but winning them back later. So what is it that we found were the most powerful things for us to track and use as a trigger to stratify? There's usage. Okay, how often do people actually render the service in a given amount of time? We measure that bi-weekly, and then of course we stretch it out monthly. We aim for 90% or better usage of any training service of any kind. Anything less than 90%, we consider that a red flag. And we have other side things that we do to help work on getting better usage. We track the lifetime value. So at what point do they start paying for the service? And at what point does it stop? What did they pay? Were there any upgrades or special offers they took advantage of in the interim in that time? What's the lifetime value? And we also look for referrals. It's not on the screen right now, but did the person have any referrals? And we've actually just recently started tapping into the medallia comments to look for our net promoters to see who are the higher, net promoters, and can they be stratified higher on the list versus the distractors. And then you want to target your funnel. You want to target your win back funnel based on, the data that you want to be collected. So as I said earlier, on the top of the list for our training clients, it is who are the highest users, who has referred, who's had the highest lifetime value. They go to the top of the priority list, then down the line for the next tier down, then the third tier down, then 4th tier down, and then we try to personalize it from there. Okay, so if you consider it, for companies, will be much more successful if they're targeting members who had certain behaviors. Okay, so if they referred in the past and they've never complained and they offered high service scores, they sit higher on the priority list. If somebody who left due to price, they're actually much more likely to return than someone who had poor service. Okay, and those who had both price issue and poor service are least likely to return. So it bodes well to know that service does mean everything when it comes to stratifying. And you want to personalize it. So I won't break down this whole spreadsheet. I just kind of copied and pasted here for you to see. My main point is we use usage, referrals, and lifetime value as our primary things to help us stratify who goes on the top of the list. From there, we do know the reasons why they do it. If somebody were to cancel due to price, then we give them certain deals and breaks in order to have them rejoin at the right moment. If somebody was a relocation, well, then we offer them digital and virtual services. If somebody was non-usage, then we will use our traditional campaigns of, using member rewards or doing a call to action that's a bit more specific to them. And we dial in that on how we got better at offering accountability so you don't drop off. So we try to be very specific with this, so it's not a broad message going out to all. Third is you want to nurture your lost clients. So nurturing lost clients is something that we weren't fantastic at for a while. We just had to get really good at it over the last few years. Paid off tremendously for us in the short term. One is it's really important to have a real conversation with the client. You want to do something where you're nurturing a relationship that will last. So ideally, you do have a conversation, which I mentioned in the exit interview before. When you exit interview, it's not supposed to be a long, prolonged thing. You are just showing that you care about them so much. You're so surprised that they're leaving. What is going on? Wow. And then you have a real conversation with them. You offer them a chance to educate and engage. They say yes, you trigger a campaign. That campaign, for us, we found that doing a call to action to rejoin right away was just not a great strategy. You got to give them time to let them know you're not trying to hustle them. So you offer unsolicited education tools and tips, and hopefully you all use a good CRM, a customer relationship management system where you can just flesh this out, that will offer them this information. And at the right time, you have your call to action. Here's sort of a compressed example of what we do for PT new cancel agreements. So somebody cancels, they will get an email on day 1. They'll get another email on day 13. They get a text on day 14 with certain information. They get another email on day 30 with certain information. They get a call about 60 days later. I won't go into the details of everything. However, I will say this: the content that we use is meant to say, we want you to continue what you've been doing at our facility. You are always part of our family. Here is a great workout based on the program that you did that you can continue to do. So we have some specific to our functional, specific to our bodybuilding type program we have, and specific to our performance-based. It's unique, so that they get a workout that is the same or looks like what they were doing in a facility, so they can keep doing what they were doing when they left. And so that type of content, we see a lot of high click rate and very few unsubscribes to stay engaged with us. And, when we make the phone call, sometimes it's tough to get them on the phone. You leave voicemails and things like that. But when we do, it's always amicable, conversations. They don't feel like they're being pushed or pressured. We do have to build in a script to let them know it's about showing respect and care and check-in. And it's not about "we miss you." One of the most important things that we found was that when you're using the message "we miss you" too often, it makes it more about us as the club and not so much about them. It tends to be a weaker message. So if you've got a CRM, it's super important if you already have it activated, to just audit it frequently and make sure it could be personalized as much as possible. So if you have the capacity and you can stratify your cancels in a certain way, where here's class 1, class 2, class 3, they get a unique type of cancel campaign, it does help personalize it for them.
Sheldon, just letting you
Yes.
know, we have a little bit less than 10 minutes left in the meeting. I'm
Sure.
not sure you can get through in the rest of your slides, so hopefully we have a couple of minutes left for questions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the reminder. I do believe in this next part here. It's pretty short, so I can kind of zip through it, and then we'll do QA. All right, let's get through this. Incentivizing a return. So when it comes to incentivizing the return, I'll get to this. The key thing here is first of all, you have to map your re-engagement opportunities. So that's similar to what I said a couple slides ago. You have to know what time of the year are good times to really pull these call to actions and use your client profile data to personalize the call to action. Like I said, collect the data and use it and personalize it, and always announce your improvements. Here at the facility, we look at the year holistically and know, especially in our training department, when we pull the win back strategy. For example, somewhere around the middle of Q1 and Q2, when it's daylight savings times and there's an alert for a seasonal change, we always do our open house and push a win back campaign more than normal, even though it goes all year. We do another one in Q2, primarily for our youth athletes. We do another one at the end of, or in the middle of Q3, because again, daylight savings number 2, it alerts a seasonal change. People are indoors pre-holiday. So another win back campaign and an open house happens then. So the key thing to think about is just know when your optimal buying windows are and use that, not just for acquisition, but for driving your win back campaigns as well. And the last and super quick point is just make it about them. I made that point earlier. Fear of missing out versus we miss you. We just find that we miss you is just not as powerful as a message, but the fear of missing out has been much more powerful, much more clicks. When you kind of like look at the marketing that we had here in the past, the one on the left was meant for rejoins. The one on the right was for acquisitions. Yet we still saw more clicks and more response to the message on the right for the rejoins than even the acquisition, because the message of we miss you come back, it felt desperate. It just felt desperate. And it's really not a good look. It's more about them and getting them in a better place. And so just to save time and do some Q&A, I won't get into too much detail of the actual content of the FOMO campaign, but the long story short of it is we gave programming, we provided testimonials, and we offered insight. So yes, I think that those are all the 5 keys: create a legendary experience, target lost clients, data, nurture, incentivize your return, and make it about them. All right. Yeah, so I think right now we can close things out. If you have any questions now, I can take off screen share in a second. There's my information, and we can answer some questions if they pop through here.
Yeah, please leave it there for just a second so everybody can grab those and make sure that they know how to get in touch with you. Beyond, and if you scroll back up the chat, Barb posted everything about canfitpro's upcoming event, and Sheldon will be present at that, focused on, again, fitness business, and all those tiers and tracks that Mo talked about earlier. So thank you so much for giving us an absolute, holding our hands right into the operations of your club and the success that you had. Scott had told us a few months ago that he wanted to have you on. This is, I don't even know if we were open yet, but he was really excited about having you on. And so thank you for joining us. I'll check to see if there are, I don't see any questions in the chat. If anybody wanted to pop it in there, please let us know. But I like the idea, because I spoke to Sheldon about what Evelyn talked about last week, 2 weeks ago, which is how, with the reopenings and the vaccine passport in Quebec, their personal training department was doing really, really well. For the people that were coming back, were actually diving into training more. So your perspective, Sheldon, of it being not only membership, but also that training piece of the puzzle was an interesting way to look at it. I'll open it up for a couple of minutes to see if anybody else has questions. And yes, Trisha did say the presentation is going to be sent out, because there's a lot of stuff there. There's sticky notes. I saw a lot of people writing, so I know that took place. Everybody's busy writing.
That's fine.
Sometimes I knew Evelyn was
dump a lot of information. I'm like, let me just process this.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is to filter it for everybody's facilities and understanding where they're, what works with them, but to see the actual data from that was really interesting, including comparing the different campaigns, the different messaging, and now where you're doing now moving forward based on the timing of where we are at in different provinces.
Right.
So thank you so much for doing that. Very much looking forward to, yes, either you coming here or us going back to the US. I was saying, Sheldon and I, last time we saw one another was the last event we were at in the States in February of 2020. It feels like a super long time ago, yet it also feels like yesterday. So thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for your support of Canada and FIC. And thank you to CanFitPro for bringing you on today. If anybody has any questions, you know how to get in touch with Sheldon. And the recording, as always, Trisha will make available. I'll let you close it off, Trisha, as we all say a big, big, big thank you to Sheldon for your incredible generosity with all of that information today.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you sharing your knowledge, and a big piece about that is communication and language, and the difference between the type of language that you use when you are working on this win-back strategy. And I think that is something that a lot of facilities have been struggling with when it comes to what do I say? So it was really nice to see an example of what you did with your business, which I know many who have attended today find very beneficial to actually hear about. So thank you so much for your personal insight into that. And also for your recommendations for some excellent books.
Yes. Never lose a customer again. Read it. It's amazing.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And other than that, we will wrap it up. I will send out the recording. I will send out Sheldon's slides, as well as Sheldon, I'll send your email in case anybody wants to connect with you directly.
All right. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm typing in a thank you, everyone in the chat. There we go.
Great.
Right.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful Friday.
Appreciate that. This year. I love it.
Bye.
Thank you.